Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. Trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
Thanks for having me back, Jim.
Ross, the listener asked, we're looking to list our home this summer, and we're wondering what commission we should be paying in 2020.
What commission should you be paying in 2020? That's a great question. So this is how I'll start the conversation off. Commissions are, generally speaking, determined by how the local MLS system is operating. What I mean to say by that is that across Canada, each MLS system has a unique, generally speaking, unique commission structure that the real estate brokers who participate in that system have framed their business to work within. That means some MLS systems, they're still charging 6% commission total. Other MLS systems are charging 5% commonly. There's others that are 4.5%. There are other places like British Columbia and Alberta where they are still working on the old split. So it's a certain amount of commission on the first 150,000, a lower amount of commission on any house price above that. That was something that was instituted in Ontario way back in the 80s. Your commissions in the structure in your local MLS system that you're going to be dealing with, they really have not evolved over time. What happens instead is the evolution of the housing market around those commissions. And that's probably what's more important to this listener that's asked this question than the question itself, or what the answer he's looking or she's looking to get. I would say, as a homeowner in today's marketplace, I would not spend more than $1,000 in commission selling my home. There has been no need for any home sellers in Canada to offer their listing brokerage more than $1,000 in commission. Why do I say that? Well, one of the primary reasons that I left the business in 2013 was not only to address the falsehoods that were coming out of organized real estate, but it was also to address my own guilt as a listing sales rep. There's something wrong when you're going to someone's house to list their property and you're realistically looking to charge them a full year's of their disposable income to sell their home. There is just something unethical about that, in my opinion. It became increasingly difficult for me to do that when you sit down with families who trusted you, possibly for a couple of generations of their family, to buy and sell homes, and you're sitting there justifying why you should be paid an exorbitant amount of money to sell their home. Right now today, across Canada, the only place that a property needs to be marketed on is realtor.ca. It does not need to be advertised in local newspapers. It does not need to be on other real estate websites. It does not need to be on a major brand's website. It does not need to be on Zillow. It does not need to be on any of the tens of thousands of real estate sites out there where the listing can be propagated. It only needs to be on realtor.ca. It's really the biggest monopoly that there is in the business industry, realtor.ca. And because of that concentration of eyes across Canada, every single home buyer in Canada who's actively looking to buy a home will be searching realtor.ca tonight. That means as long as your home is advertised on realtor.ca, any home buyer who is slightly interested in your property or your price category of home will be looking at your home. There is no need for you to spend tens of thousands of dollars with a listing broker to put your house on Realtor.ca. There's even cheaper alternatives. I believe Purple Bricks, the for sale by owner company that used to be called Comfree, is substantially less than that. The reason why I say $1,000 is this. If a good quality real estate broker could handle 200 deals in a year, 200 listings in a year, they would earn $200,000. We used to handle 200 properties in a year ourselves. So I know that is handleable. It's handleable with only one assistant, and you do have to have a sales team working for you. But when you're looking at overhead today is basically a quarter of what it used to be back in the late 80s and early 90s. Because the only place realtors actually advertise today is on Realtor.ca. And that listing costs you maybe $50. The owners of the homes would be better served by paying a professional marketer $500 to do a full property a brochure on their property. Like professional graphic artists will do it for that kind of money. You don't have to rely on a realtor or their local secretary to do it. You can hire a graphic artist to do one for you. As a seller, you generally want to make sure that the room sizes have all been measured by you and not by your real estate broker, because you're the one who's going to sign off on it that the room sizes are correct. Anything that appears in your listing, you want to be responsible for. If you're quoting how old the furnace is, you want to be the person who quotes the age of the furnace, the roof, the countertops, the kitchen, everything else. You, as a homeowner, also happens to be the person who is most actively understanding who the next buyer of your home is going to be. Because probably they're going to be someone just like you or just like the person you were when you first bought that home. Homeowners always know more than their real estate broker will know. I learned that very early in my career. When we were listing homes, we would ask our sellers to write down as much as they could about the home. We would ask our sellers to tell us who they believed the ideal buyer was for the home. And we would ask them to tell us what the great things about their community. From that, we created our advertising copy. Our advertising copy, which is generally one or two little sentences, because real estate ads were so expensive back then, were focused on the talking points that the homeowner themselves told us. That was our experience. We knew that what the homeowner thought was going to matter to the buyer the most. Now, there is no need for any homeowner in Canada to pay more than $1,000 to list their home. And I'll use it in this context. Over the last 3 or 4 days, you have heard across Canada how the real estate market is crazy. We're having bidding wars all over the place. Multiple offers all over the place. Houses are selling above asking all over the place. Well, if that's true, what they're basically saying is your real estate agent's going to work for a couple of hours and get tens of thousands of dollars. Are you insane? Think about it. Think how long it takes for you to earn $20,000. Earn the money, pay taxes on it, and then not spend it. How much extra income do you have to earn so that you have $20,000 left over in your pocket? Since there is no logical reason to pay more than that, why do you do it? Well, people will say, well, everybody says you've got to do it. Yes, that's what the real estate brokerage community wants you to believe. That's what I wanted you to believe for 25 years. It's not the truth. Well, who's going to negotiate the offer? Well, the best person to negotiate an offer is a lawyer, because all the lawyer is actually going to do is look through the contract and tell you where the problems are in that contract. I will tell your listeners that every single real estate contract that was presented to me on the thousands of listings that we had always had at least one error in it. It had some loophole that I could find, because the amount of work that goes into perfecting your listing presentation or your offer presentation, that goes into perfecting what an offer should look like, how the clauses are structured, where the commas appear, where the periods are, what you're included in your chattels, what you're including in your fixtures, how the legal description is written. It takes hundreds and hundreds of repeated experiences before you acquire the knowledge that allows you to do that. Real estate agents go their entire careers without selling 100 homes. So why pay them? I'd rather give my lawyer $200 for them to look over the offer when the offer actually comes in before I sign it. So that's what my advice would be to anyone out there who's thinking about selling their home. If you're thinking about selling your home, don't pay over $1,000 in listing broker commission. There's no need for it. And then on the buyer side, that's a different story in itself.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. A listener asks, Ross, our mortgage comes due in August. We're wondering what Ross thinks about rates and the length of term we should be considering right now.
Yeah, that's a timely question, I think. Certainly now that, last week we saw somebody with a 1.89% 5-year mortgage term get offered to them. So, we are at an all-time historical low in mortgage interest rates. So certainly can understand the confusion that's existing right now over that topic for those setting up to renew and even for those looking to acquire a new home. Everybody's situation is unique. And what I mean to say by that is to give someone a mortgage recommendation without having a deep dive into who they are as people, where they are in their financial life, where they are in their jobs and careers is unethical in our point of view. When someone asks a question like that, there's a whole series of questions that are never asked to them, that need to be asked. A, how secure is your job? Be honest about it. This is a very, very important question because if you have low job security, odds are you want a longer term mortgage, regardless if you have to pay a little bit more mortgage interest. You have to look at, is your income going to increase? If it is, then you have to be thinking about an opportunity possibly to lower your amortization going forward, or conversely, to withdraw money for other purposes. These are all considerations that needs to go into this discussion. Mortgage rate forecasting. Well, what doesn't happen anywhere in Canada is mortgage rate forecasting. Why? Because mortgage rate forecasting is illegal for mortgage brokers and for real estate salespersons, and it doesn't work to the advantage of banks, so the bank economists remain mute about it. We hear governments talking about future interest rates, which impact mortgage rates, but we never see them committing to a 1-year plan. My biggest policy recommendation to governments would be set a mortgage interest rate for the next year. Always have a 1-year lead time on mortgage interest rates, where those rates are not going to go up or down. By doing so, you remove a lot of the volatility in the housing market, but they're clueless to that, so they're not going to do it. What I would say to this listener is this. Historically, there is a relationship between certain mortgage rates and the cost of borrowing over your lifetime of ownership. You have to be tracking these rates so that you have a interest rate cost that you're willing to pay. And it should be a maximum cost. In other words, based on the calculation that I'm making, with a high probability the total amount of mortgage interest that I'm going to pay over the next 10, 12, 15, 25 years will not exceed this amount. There are calculations that are possible that have been back-checked to be proven true from 1980 forward, where you can make these kind of forecasts for someone. And that really should be taken into consideration. You also need to be looking at whether you're going to play the game of shorting interest rates by signing up for a variable or a short-term interest rate, mortgage rate, versus a long-term interest rate, because that's effectively what someone does. When you are taking a short-term mortgage interest rate or a variable interest rate, you are basically shorting the mortgage market. So there too, you have to decide whether both, if it's one party, it's okay. If it's two parties, i.e. a husband and wife, or a husband and wife, or wife and wife, whatever the situation is, you have to be thinking the same way between the two parties. Because I can tell you, if one spouse has an opinion on interest rates and is worried about them rising when you have a variable rate loan, where the other one doesn't care, you're going to create some problems in your marriage because of it. Long term. That's going to happen. I've watched it happen hundreds of times. I learned over time that the way you talk to people is you make sure that both parties on the contract, both spouses, have the same, or at least accepted the same premise that the mortgage is being booked under. So I would say, generally speaking, there is no way for the banks to raise interest rates right now. We are in a situation where we are probably going to see the Canadian economy get downgraded, and the resulting downgrading of the rating agencies on Canadian debt. That historically means interest rates are going to rise to offset that risk. They have to rise to offset that risk. The problem we have right now is, if you were to raise rates, even a quarter of a point, the plummeting economy that we're in right now would just plummet that much quicker. So this is where in the past we've talked about the interest rate trap in the show. It's rearing its ugly head again. There really is no solution for today's bankers to get out of the situation that they're in, other than time. And when I'm talking about time, I'm talking about 10 to 15 years of gradual increases in interest rates. What I'll tell your listeners is this: it is unhealthy for both the economy and the wealth of a nation to have interest rates where they are today. Interest rates safely should be between the 5 and 7% range. Mortgage interest rates, 5-year mortgage interest rates, should be safely between the 5 and the 7% rate. It's when they get above 9.5% where you start to get into trouble. When they drop below 5%, you start to get in trouble, because you start getting the wealth effect becomes more pronounced, and the illusion of wealth grows because of it. So what I would say to the listener is this: you need to get some granular level of understanding about your mortgage and about the advice that you need in order to make a rational decision that is going to cause you the least amount of risk. I will also say to all listeners, based on the thousands and thousands of families that we've worked with over the years, even when people have paid a higher rate of interest, they always are happy for the security that it has brought their family. The security of a standard mortgage payment over the length of the term of their loan. We are entering territory right now where it's very, very highly recommendable for some families to go ahead and even reach the 10-year term in this country. Situations have to be right. Understanding has to be right. Risk aversion has to be the proper mindset. In other words, we're willing to pay dollars now in insurance to offset that risk. That's how the listener needs to approach the question that they posed to us today.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia.
Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Ross Kay. Ross, all of Canada's major real estate boards are releasing their monthly June sales numbers, and we're wondering what you think about what they're reporting.
I think, Jim, they're reporting the same nonsense that they've been reporting for decades. And I also think that the Canadian home buyer and sellers and governments believe them. They actually believe what's in the news today. So let me frame how we see June sales numbers. The Toronto Real Estate Board today released a report today. Now, what your listeners won't recognize if they were to look at this report, I think it's about 27 pages, is that since February of this year, there have been no quoted comments from the Toronto Real Estate Board included in the first page of the document. So what I mean to say by that is that from the early 1990s through January of 2020, every report had a quote from the Real Estate Board president of the Toronto Real Estate Board. It also generally had a quote from their chief economist in quotation marks. Quotation marks to a realtor means they can be held liable for the statements that they're making. In Ontario, it's the Real Estate Council of Ontario, who was made fully aware that the board of the Toronto Real Estate Board was producing false, misleading, and deceptive advertising. That was a violation of the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act in Ontario. The exact same thing happened in British Columbia and Alberta every single month. But in Ontario, they magically quit putting things in quotes in February. Now, of course, February's release, remember, happened around March the 5th. Oh, what was going on right then? Now, when you don't want to be held accountable by the regulator for housing stats, you make sure your legal counsel gives you the instruction as a board of directors that no quotations appear in the report. And that's why you had the ridiculous report today from the Greater Toronto Real Estate Board that the Greater Toronto house prices went up $99,000 year over year this June. The absurdity of that comment, Jim, is as absurd as a real estate board of Greater Vancouver claiming Vancouver house prices had gone up. Now, what you don't have in Vancouver is you don't have a fully functioning real estate sold site that allows the consumer to accurately and readily track real estate market at the street level. Now, in the Greater Toronto area, you do. There are 3 different websites in Toronto where real estate brokers have gone out and built websites. Now, 2 of those websites are by failed real estate brokers, which is the kind of the irony. They're real estate brokers who have to give away things to get business. They're what we call a failed brokerage. I mean, they're not even selling enough houses over the course of a year to learn anything about a housing market. That's another thing your listeners should understand. If a real estate broker is not selling over 50 properties a year, they can't acquire enough knowledge even to understand how a housing market works, or even how to negotiate a contract. After 50, and if you did 50 for a few years, you start to gain the knowledge. Ideally, it's someone who sells over 100 houses a year, because then they're doing enough volume where they can become competent with the profession. Because when you hear things like the Toronto Real Estate Board wants all GTA home buyers to believe the average value, the average price of a GTA home increased $99,000 at the same time that we have massive unemployment, an economy in the tank, a recession that we're not going to get out of in the foreseeable future, with no positive outcomes on the road ahead, i.e. no vaccine, they want you to believe homes are worth $99,000 more.
Ross, perhaps maybe they sold one house and it was $99,000 more than the one house they sold a year ago. How else could you say that it was, but are they saying every home that's being bought in Toronto is worth nearly $100,000 more than the same time last year?
They said the average home increased in value 12%, which equates to $99,000. What the public doesn't understand is the reason why real estate agents and all real estate charts from 1980 till today show percentage change is because it hides the absurdity of what they're actually saying. I mean, a 10% change in 1990 in Toronto was $24,000. Today, a 10% change is $90,000. What I can tell you, listeners, is this. When you go to these websites and you stream right down at a street level and you look at these sites and you click on sales over the last year, you will see that house prices have not changed one penny over the last year, but real estate boards are telling you they have. Think about the absurdity of this comment. Last night before I left, because we've been waiting we thought Trev was going to release on Friday, so we could have updated our members on the weekend. Of course, Trev held it back. And you can see why. Again, no quotes in their report. No quotation marks in their report. I said to the team last night before I left, I said, I want each of you to go through and at a granular level, show me townhouses across the GTA that did not show any increase in price over the last 6 months or showed a decrease in price over the last 6 months. And I said, if you find any where you can conclusively show me where house prices increased over the last 6 months, I'll give you $1,000, a bonus. Well, what I received in my inbox this morning, because they just all sent me as gifts, is a set of townhouses that show declining prices across the GTA at the street level, identical home, identical assessment value. In other words, the government itself, the Ontario government, assessed these homes to be of equal or the one that's less money, a higher value than the one that sold earlier. There are streets where you can go in and there are literally, Jim, 10 to 8 homes that have sold that are by the same builder, built the same age, the same square footage, the same identical assessment value, where the prices have been unchanged for the last year, or the prices have dropped. So if that's the case, because these are primo properties, I mean, the properties that are the best properties are always the ones that are 12 years old or newer, because they have the lowest 10-year ownership cost of any home that you're going to buy, the first 10 years of ownership. And the newer the house, the more affordable the house actually is, because your cost of ownership is going to be lower. They gave me properties across the GTA, townhouses. So I picked a category, Jim, where the price is normally between $600,000 and $700,000. Okay, now some areas it would have broke into the eights. Okay, so I picked a category of home where the most interest from home buyers is just below or right at what the median home buyer is paying across the GTA. All of them, Jim, all of them have declining home prices. And then people wonder, why have the quotes, the quotation marks, disappeared? Why is the new president of the Toronto Real Estate Board not having their words in quotes on the front page of the report, where for the last 30 years they did? Why did that change happen? And why did it happen the week before the lockdown happened? We know why. It's because the jig's up. The scam is over. there is someone out there who knows more about the MLS infrastructure than the presidents and the boards that are overseeing them. Someone who knows how to contact the regulators and demand oversight. Someone who's willing to expose them for what they are, fraud. Home prices did not increase on average $99,000 in Toronto over the last year. If you believe that, I've got some swampland in northern Manitoba that you're welcome to buy because no one wants it except a couple of moose.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. If you have any questions for Ross, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.